Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inspiring Careers. My name is Dan Johnson, and I'm here today to again present you with another award-winning industry specialist who will give you some fantastic advice. Her name's Cara Gibson. She works as a Medical Science Liaison within the pharmaceutical industry. And as far as awards go, she's done very, very well in her career. She has been the MSL of the Year finalist for 2015. She has won her company, Novartis, the Field Medical Excellent Award for 2016. And she's won the Novartis UK Award for Values and Behaviours in both 2015 and 2016. Good afternoon. Hi, Cara. How are you doing?
Hi, Dan. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. It's very hot recording, but otherwise can't really complain at sunny weather because it's lovely. So,
Yep.
Cara, just introduce yourself. I've given you a lovely introduction there, but tell everyone what you do, a bit about yourself, and then we'll get straight into it.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in Novartis, an MSL at Novartis for 3.5 years. I was very fortunate to move straight from academia into Novartis as an MSL, which was great.
Excellent.
And yeah, just been building my skills for the company ever since. So I've been in the same therapy area for the last 3.5 years. So I think I'm a bit of an expert in it now, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but enjoying it. It's really good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you said when you graduated, you went straight from academia into a job. What was that job search process like for you, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the easiest. I probably figured out in my final year of my PhD, so I did 4 years in academia, and I figured out in that final year I didn't want to stay in academia. I thought I did up until that point, and then I figured it's not quite for me for various reasons that I'm sure most academics will appreciate. And so I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to do next? I was really naive. I thought pharma was you could be an R&D and you could be a sales rep, and that was about it. So I started to kind of explore that in more detail, and it just so happened that one of the other PhD students that I was working with, her mum was an MSL.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down, had a coffee with her, and everything she said about the role, I thought, that's me. I like to talk about science. I get to do it every day. I get to speak to, experts in their field. It's perfect. So I kind of just looked further, made a LinkedIn profile. It's so important these days. Started reaching out to recruiters. And I must admit, I came against a kind of brick wall with a lot of them because I didn't have any experience. And I suppose they want to get the best candidate.
Yeah.
But I persevered. The more I suppose that you talk to people, the more you learn and you can kind of use in your discussions. And I think by kind of 4 to 5 months down the line, I knew the lingo, I knew what to say, and I think they took me a bit more seriously. And I finally found a recruiter that was willing to put me forward for the role at Novartis.
Excellent. And I take it that went well then, yeah?
Yeah, so technically I did the application, I did a phone interview and then the face-to-face, and I was very lucky enough to get the job.
Fantastic. Perfect. It sounds like you've kind of answered my first question, really, which was going to be, what are you most passionate about in your role? But you've listed quite a few things there.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to ask, from the moment you were talking, it was with your mum's friend, I think you said, didn't you?
Friend's mum, yeah.
Friend's mum, yeah. So the moment you were talking with her about the MSL position to having where you are now within your career, what are you most passionate about in your role, and what looks different compared to what you discussed to how things have been?
Yeah, so I think for me, I love bringing new information to people that they might not have known. So, it's being able to have all of that kind of scientific information, the clinical data, and just sharing it in a way that's understandable for other people. And that's very much how she explained it to me. And I thought, I can do that. It's what I've been doing for quite a few years now in academia. And it's what I love. In my role at Novartis, I've had a lot of opportunity to kind of dig into the data, do a lot of the analysis for myself. And I think when you get to do that, you get to appreciate it and understand it far better. And then, it's just communicating that to the external customers who are, our doctors, our consultants in hospitals. And I think the great thing is, as an MSL, I still truly feel like I'm impacting positively on patients, because I'm providing more information to doctors to make, that well-rounded decision, whatever it may be, to treat their patients.
Excellent, excellent. So What would you say then are your top 3 success secrets that have helped you out most in your career?
So number one, know your data. I know that sounds really obvious and really basic, but we are communicating with some incredibly intelligent individuals. A lot of them might be professors, doing a lot of research themselves, and they're going to want to know that you know what you're talking about. So get the basics right, first of all. I think second of all, we're taking up important time in clinicians' kind of days. And so whatever amount of time you get with them, utilize it in the best way possible. So I would say, do a pre-call plan, know what you're going to talk about. If you've agreed that before, stick to it.
Okay.
Have a discussion on the day, present your data well, in an easy to understand format.
Yeah.
Be ready for follow-up questions. And then afterwards, if you've got actions or the doctor has actions, follow up and kind of make sure they're completed, whenever you've agreed to have them done by. And then the third one, I think, know who you're speaking to. Do a lot of background checking. A lot of these clinicians and academics that you'll be speaking to have published, they've done work. Maybe it's even just audits locally that they've presented. Dig deep and see what you can get, because I think it makes for a far more engaging conversation if you've done your homework.
So that's getting to know your doctors on a much more in-depth level, like researching their white papers that they've written.
Oh, absolutely.
All these kind of things. Okay, fantastic. So just to summarise there, it's knowing your data inside out. That's your number one. Your number two was using other people's time wisely. So that's through preparation, as well as in the meetings as well, being prepared to ask the right questions and to present your data and your information as efficiently and I guess as easy to understand as possible.
Yeah.
And I think the last one, sorry, what was the last one again? It was...
It's knowing who you're talking to, really.
Yeah, excellent.
Because as well, the more you kind of look into what they do, the more you find out what they're interested in. And so there's no point speaking to someone who's not interested about what you have to tell them.
Yeah.
So if you can find that out ahead of time, it's great. Maybe during the meeting that you have with them, you obviously ask some questions and you'll figure out a bit more about them. And that just allows you to tailor it a bit better, I think.
Excellent. That's really good advice. Fantastic. Thank you for that. So here's a question then. Again, one of the things I always like to teach people is that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to fail. And I think there's a lot of popular videos on social media that you should actually kind of embrace failure, not as a means of that's it, you failed. It's not such an ending thing. It's part of progress. It's part of improving. So what would you say is your biggest career failure? And how did you overcome it, or how did you come fighting back in response to that failure?
Yeah, so probably my biggest failure, if you like. So I was putting together some kind of information and some slides, and I suppose, coming from science background, I like to go into the data, I like to go into a lot of detail, and I think I just jumped into it in far too much detail, and figuring, everyone would get it, it would be fine, it'd be easy to communicate, etc. And actually, it wasn't met with that great a reception, if you like. So people were like, oh yeah, it was useful. And then I spoke to some doctors I knew really well, like, actually, we think you need to top line it a bit more and then go into the depth. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back to the drawing board, kind of redid all the slides, changed a few of the diagrams. All the data was the same. The takeaway message was the same. So yeah, for me, I was kind of like, that was a huge learn. And I'm so thankful that I spoke to those doctors, because if I hadn't, and I hadn't had that feedback, then I still would have been doing the exact same thing, and people really wouldn't have been taking it on board as well.
Yeah. And do you feel that's something that we pick up from academia? Because when I graduated, I studied biomedical science, and I found that a lot of the research and the way I needed to complete assignments for my degree, I felt I had to be a perfectionist. I felt I had to get all the facts, get everything written down, get as much as possible in there in order to win, in order to get the grade. Do you think that's something that comes straight from academia, or would you say you're just a perfectionist and you have to always do that as well? So
maybe a bit of both. I think it has been trained in me, like from academia, and then just more generally, probably as a person, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But yeah, I think it is, changing that mindset and thinking, what does the person that you're talking to need out of this? At the end of the day, what decision do they have to make, and what are they trying to achieve? And I think once I got that more in my head and I spoke to the doctors about the presentation and got that feedback, and it's so good to get feedback as much as possible.
Yeah.
I connected that all together and thought, I do need to tailor this slightly differently. And once I did it, the feedback was far, far better.
No, that's really good advice. It's so much easier to be able to do your job better, deliver a better service, when you know exactly what the other people who you're going to be providing that for are thinking, and getting that through feedback is the best way. I definitely believe so. And it sounds like that really helped you in that moment where you thought you were giving so much and you're really putting everything into it, when actually when the feedback came, they wanted it in a much more simple and concise way.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so what would you say has been your Eureka moment in your career? So like a game-changing moment for you?
So I think for me, the Eureka moment, if you like, was an interaction I had with the doctor. And, I put in just so much effort into preparing for this meeting. We'd met a few times at a meeting, and, it was all coming to kind of a head, if you like. Everything we talked about, all the research we'd done, I put so much together for this person. And it was just, as I was just about to leave, they just kind of stopped me and said, "This has made such a difference to my clinical practice."
Okay.
And, MSLs, we're so busy, we're on the road a lot, we're at conference, we've got our own kind of company meetings, I was away from home a lot. And just in that moment, I thought, this is all absolutely worth it. And I almost just went up a gear in my approach to work, because I thought I was kind of maxed out, if you like. I was doing as much as I could. I was putting everything into it. And just that small little comment, from a doctor just meant so much to me. And just from that point moving forward, I thought, I want to do so much more. So, I went back down to the office. I asked what projects I could be involved in. We were doing trials. I wanted to do a bit more. And for the last kind of 2 years in the role, I think that's really what pushed me, just, getting that positive feedback.
Fantastic. So to kind of recap on then, it sounds like that approach was a way of thinking from kind of the GP's, the doctor's perspective, and thinking, right, how can I make this person's life so much easier? Is that how you would summarise that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was trying to do. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so what's the one thing that you see that is holding people back from being successful in their careers? What do you think is holding other MSLs back?
So I think it's just being, proactive. It's, asking for that feedback, from your doctors. What could you do a bit better? What worked well, what didn't work well, and whatever feedback you get, just instantaneously incorporate it. And then that's quite externally focused. And from an internally focused perspective, what more can you do in the company? I probably did a lot of extra bits that maybe some of the other MSLs weren't doing at the time. So, getting involved in our clinical trials, I helped to write one of the trial protocols with the medical advisor at the time. And it's things that I was quite passionate about. But in fact, it helped me in kind of my day-to-day job as well. Because when we started kind of running that trial, I knew it probably better than anyone else did, which made me the expert, and it just allowed me to communicate far better with my doctors and the researchers in hospitals.
So it sounds like you went really above and beyond there by not just looking at what your job required, but trying to get involved in other aspects of the trial, other aspects of what that GP was involved with, the doctor was involved with, and taking that all in and making sure that you put yourself out there and said, what else can I get involved? What else can I learn? What other projects can I either contribute or at least have some involvement with? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Just whenever I could, I kind of threw it in my hand and said, "Yep, I'll help. What do you need me to do?" We had a great team in the office. Kind of a lot of opportunities were going on, and just putting myself forward for as many as possible.
Oh, fantastic. So we had quite an interesting discussion. So we first spoke on the phone a few days ago. And you got very passionate about a particular topic, which I'd just like to go over again. and that was talking about integrity in the role. So if I was to ask the question, how do you like to approach the MSL role, and what do you think really helps you stand out as an MSL? Tell me your answer to that. We can talk about the same thing again, or just tell me what you think that is.
Yeah. So kind of touched upon it, I suppose, in maybe some of my other comments previously. But I think the MSL role is a fantastic role within the industry. And I think anyone who is an MSL is in a very unique position. You tend to have, I suppose, a very peer-to-peer relationship with your doctors and the researchers in the hospital. You know, you are in that same playing field. Truly, you're not there to try and induce them to prescribe, nothing like that. So I think it changes the dynamic of the relationship in such a nice way. But I think you just have to be so careful to always maintain your integrity as an MSL, and that you're there to provide the information. You know, the doctor should want to hear this information. They should have agreed to the meeting, etc. And just making sure that you never stray from that, you never take advantage of, you like. Because I think the day that any MSL does that is the day that they lose respect in their customers' eyes. And yeah, I think it's very tough to ever move on from that point. So yeah, that's just what I've learned, I think, over the last few years.
And would you say this is a like a personal integrity, what you feel is right or wrong, or is this an integrity that's maybe you've learned from the culture, or what you've gained experience from, if that kind of question makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a personal integrity, first and foremost, kind of internal moral compass and all that kind of thing. And it's also looking at, you know, what does the APBI say? You know, what have we signed up to agree to do, and how we work, you know, with external customers. And then also, I'm sure most companies like mine have their own kind of internal code compliance. So, you know, what does that say? And it's living and breathing it. It's almost, you know, agreeing with it so much that you almost don't have to think about it in a way, because you're just living it.
Fantastic. And you know what? I think that's actually a bigger challenge that a lot of people face in their jobs and their careers, and what a lot of people, most people realise, because when in any job, and I've faced this before as well, when something goes on and you think, oh, actually, would I approach it like that, or is it okay to do that? It can kind of leave you feeling a bit torn. But again, it's what do you think makes it so much easier? I'm guessing you've been fortunate enough to have good bosses and a great company culture that's helped with that. But what do you think makes it really a lot easier to act with the integrity that you feel is right?
I just think it's you know, every time you have a meeting, every interaction that you have, you just say, you know, what's going to benefit patients the best. And at the end of the day, that's hopefully why we're all in this role and in the industry, is to see some positivity for, you know, the end user, if you like. And so almost put yourself in the patient's perspective, or the doctor's perspective, or both, actually, I try and do. And if you do that every time, I think you should come out with the kind of the right way of doing things. And I think as well, there is a lot of pressure sometimes, you know, depending on what company you're working for, what's going on with products, etc. And yeah, you've got to take that on board and think about it and consider it. But when you're out there in the field, you know, that has to sit at one side, and you focus on delivering the job that you want to do.
That's a really, really good advice, Cara. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Cara, it's come to that. It's come to that time now. We're going to now go into our quick fire round, where I'm going to ask you 5 questions in quick succession, and you're going to give us your most honest answers. So, Cara, are you ready for the quick fire round?
Ready as I'll be.
Fantastic. Here we go. So, Cara, quick fire round. Question 1. What is your favourite movie?
The first Matrix.
The first Matrix. Any particular reason?
It revolutionized cinematic kind of special effects. It was a different story at the time. You can't watch The Matrix now for the first time. It just wouldn't fit. You just think, oh, it's just like every other movie. Yeah. But it was just ahead of its time when it came out. Yeah, completely agree. You saying that, I watched it the other day, and I was still blown away. Those effects were fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Second question. What has been your favourite holiday? So my husband and I went on a trip to Vietnam and Cambodia for 3 weeks recently, and it was just incredible. The people were amazing, the culture, the history, not all of it good, of course, but just what they've learned as you know, a society. Yeah, it was amazing. Highly recommend it.
Fantastic. I've not been to that part of the world yet, but I'm definitely going to have to get myself out there. It sounds really, really cool. Okay, what's been your most influential book for your career?
Yeah, so actually, it was recommended quite early on by one of my doctors, and I read it. So it was Mark McCormack's What They Didn't Teach You in Harvard Business School.
Okay. Can you give us a little synopsis?
Yeah, so it's quite nice. So for those of you that don't know, Mark McCormack was very big in kind of golfing and kind of marketing of golfers. And throughout his book, what he does is he kind of talks about how you can get people to maybe change their behaviors or change their actions. And it's a lot of kind of behavioral psychology, which I suppose we can all use in our day-to-day kind of work.
Yeah. Excellent, fantastic. Sounds like a good book. What's the name and the author again, sorry?
So Mark McCormack.
Mark McCormack. And what was the title, sorry?
What They Didn't Teach You in Harvard Business School.
Okay, fantastic. Check that book out. Sounds like it's highly recommended by Cara and one of her peers as well. What's your most favourite song?
So I didn't know whether I was going to be completely honest and tell you like my favourite cheesy pop song or whatever, but I think it has to be Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Great song, great shout. And what's your most favourite thing to do outside of work?
So for me, I kind of love to do kind of DIY and kind of tinkering around the house. So what I've just done is we've got a brand new kind of big work shed for me out in the garden. Cool. So I'm going to properly get into some kind of woodworking and carpentry.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. Great way to relax. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the quick fire round. Cara, I want to ask you one more question before we wrap this up. I want to ask you, what is your final piece of career advice for any MSL who's currently watching this video?
So for me, don't be afraid to fail. I think have some new ideas, bring them up, talk about them, try and introduce them. And if you can get them introduced, just get behind them full force. And yeah, do you want to know what? If it doesn't work, learn from it and just don't do it again.
That sounds like really, really good advice. Don't be afraid to fail. I can back that up and say, anyone who's watching, if you're ever getting frozen by fear or ever thinking that you can't do something because it might fail or it might not go right or other people might not think it's very good, get your idea out there, get behind it full force, test it, see how it goes, but just don't not do it out of fear, especially fear of failure. Okay, Cara, listen, it's been an absolutely fantastic interview, and it's been a great pleasure having you on my show. Cara, if anyone has any questions or would like to talk to you further about some points that have been discussed today, can they connect with you on LinkedIn and just get in touch and ask further? Would that be okay?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'd love to chat to anyone that wants to ask any questions. Feel free.
Fantastic. And like always, if you've enjoyed the show and you have any questions, you're free to get in touch with Cara on LinkedIn, and you're free to get in touch with me as well. Please do like, share and comment. My name's been Dan Johnston. This has been Cara Gibson. Cara, thank you very much for being on the show, and I look forward to seeing everyone again soon. Thanks very much.